Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're just maybe a minute before go time, so I just wanted to jump on and welcome you all again. Thank you all again for being our audience. We've had really good participation. I think this is a time when we sign up for a lot of things and we hope that they're going to be recorded. So we did have a fair number of registrants, but we've had a great crowd throughout all 3 days so far. Really excited to have Meryl Evans joining us from just down the road from where we are in Oklahoma. She's down in Texas, so we've talked about being state neighbors and the chance that we might actually be able to meet in person when things like that happen again. So I'm not going to take any more time, Meryl, than I already have of yours. So by all means, take it away.
Thank you, Rob. Howdy, y'all. A couple things before we start. If you like descriptions of the images and videos, please go to mirror.net/tech. I said okay. I put the link in the chat already. If anything's not clear, please let me know. Second, I want to hear from y'all, so I'll watch the chat box as much as I can. Third, thanks to the captioners for captioning this unique accent. Here's the cool trick. If the captions block anything, you can drag and drop it. Okay, let's get the show on the road. Meryl Evans, that's two syllables and rhymes with peril, not pearl. Pronoun she, her. I am a native Texan from Fort Worth who lives in Plano, right next to Dallas. I'm a lefty with shoulder length, curly hair, pale skin, dark top, and dark face backdrop. I'm not as cute as the image I've made from when I was 3 and had a hearing aid on my chest. I was born hearing free, aka profoundly deaf. Here's the fact that's going to surprise those of you who have never met me. Many people make this assumption, even accessibility pros and United States vice president. They assume I know sign language. I don't. That's neither a good thing or a bad thing. It just is. Deaf and hard of hearing people are all different. I can only speak from my own experience. To listen, I rely on lip reading and my bionic ear, which is a lot cooler than saying cochlear implant. In my day job, when I'm not an accessibility and caption pusher, I manage digital marketing projects for accessibility companies and other clients. Here's what I hope you take away from this. If you have an interest in accessibility, I don't have to convince you of the importance. But you may have to convince others. Inaccessible images are one of the most common problems on websites and social media. It's getting easier to ensure they're accessible, and I'll cover that. We'll touch on what you can do to ensure your content and media are inclusive. And finally, accessibility is never one and done. Maybe a writer doesn't know the add or text images. Maybe a salesperson doesn't know the images on their presentation may have a contrast problem. Maybe a marketer doesn't know about adding captions to video. Maybe human resources don't know their job posts are not optimized for screen reader. Do you detect a theme here? Accessibility isn't just the design and production team's job. It's everybody's job. I believe the biggest root cause of inaccessibility is the lack of education and awareness. Schools and colleges need to cover accessibility. Companies need to train employees on accessibility. Software development needs to bake accessibility into everything. Imagine forgetting to add sugar to a cookie recipe. Throwing sugar all over the baked cookies won't fix it. The only way to fix it is to start over. This is my dad in a photo from when he was a good humor man in Brooklyn, New York. Do you notice the curb cut in front of his truck? The initial purpose for it was to provide a ramp to allow wheelchairs to cross the street. The curb cut ended up helping a lot more people, parent pushing drone, traveler pulling luggage, skateboarders flying, bikers riding, workers carrying heavy loads. Making your content accessible will have a curb cut effect. Captions are the best example of that. Many people think caption videos are for the deaf and hard of hearing. Yet, a Verizon Media and Publicis Media report says 80% of those who use captions are not deaf or hard of hearing. Screen readers aren't just for people who are blind or have low vision. People with other disabilities like processing disorders, learning differences, and dyslexia may use them too. Oh, and not all blind people use screen readers. Clearly, content accessibility helps more than those with a disability. Besides, anyone can become temporarily impaired. While playing tennis, I tore a ligament in my thumb. I couldn't use my thumb for weeks. Boy, did I learn just how much a thumb can do. Here's a scenario that can happen to anyone. Someone asked me a question. I answered, or so I thought. I misread the question because my brain was fried after a busy day. This happened to all of us when we're tired, stressed, sick, not sleeping well, or in a distracting environment. All of these can cause temporary impairment, and they happen every day. Anyone can become situationally impaired. For instance, many people struggle to hear others in a noisy setting. Finally, all humans, we all have something in common. We're getting older. Thus, aging brings new challenges along the way. Many accessibility supporters open the conversation talking about how many people live with a disability. Even though 1 out of every 4 American adults have some type of disability, decision makers believe it doesn't impact them. Remember the curb cut effect. It shows the value of making everything accessible, including content. Accessibility matters because it gives everyone equal access, regardless of the circumstances. Content accessibility matters because it gives people choices for consuming content. And as a bonus to help make the business case, content accessibility matters because it helps optimize websites for search engines. Unfortunately, a lot of content isn't accessible. Webin Million says that out of the million sites they evaluated, 98.1% of homepages had a detectable accessibility problem. And this is where the marketers, sales pros, and other people in non-tech roles can make a difference. Before we delve into how to make content accessible, I want to address accessibility overlay. Hopefully y'all caught Sherry Byrne-Haber's great talk on this. You may have spotted the blue circle icon with the person. You may have caught overlay ads promising to ensure your website is compliant with only 1 line of code. These sound too good to be true, and they are. They actually put up more barriers to accessibility. Here is a quote from overlayfactsheet.com. No overlay product on the market can cause a website to become fully compliant with any accessibility standard, and therefore cannot eliminate legal risk. Skip them. Your users will thank you. One of the easiest and most effective things you can do in content accessibility is to add alt text to your images. Sarah, Janet, Jennifer, Colleen, and Dax all talked about this. You'll be pros at this when the conference is over. It's often referred to as alt text because it's coded like this. Image store equals image PNG. That tells you where the image is. unequal description. It describes what is the image. Some people who are blind prefer screen readers for different reasons, and some people turn off images in their email app. When this happens, the alt text appears. Every social media network has different steps for adding alt text. Be aware that if you use social media scheduling software, they may not allow you to enter alt text for some social networks. For example, if you post directly in LinkedIn, you can add the alt text there, but not on a third-party scheduling app. That is not the app's fault. I work around it by adding a line at the end of the post or in the comment describing the image. I met someone who was deafblind. She said she doesn't use a screen reader, so alt text does not work for her. She appreciates it when you add image description in the content. Some social networks automatically add alt text. This really gets the content right. Here's a snow me and my son built in the backyard doing Texas Snowmageddon. The automatic alt text proposed tree in snow. I have 0 trees and it's totally missed the snow person. The other photo of a jigsaw of 2 tables with a jigsaw puzzle pieces. Although alt text stays indoor. What makes good alt text? The key is to be descriptive yet concise. What's important about the image? How does it relate to the content? Ask yourself, what would you want to know about the image if it doesn't show up? Social networks have different length limits for alt text. Just because they allow for 300 or 1,000 characters does not mean you should fill it in as much as you can. Be descriptive yet concise, and you can omit such as an image or GIF of. If the image is descriptive and adds no context to the content, then say it's decorative. Otherwise, some social networks will say something else. On LinkedIn, if you don't provide alt text, the screen reader will say there is no alternative text description for the image. That's a lot of words about nothing. If it's decorative, say so. One word is better than a whole sentence announcing there is no alt text. I looked at a bunch of photos on Facebook with people in them. Auto alt text had the same thing for all of them. Maybe an image of 3 people and people smiling. That's a lot of useless information too. Yet, the image has a lot of alt text. A lot of text. The art provides context. It's a Slate article that says to stop emphasizing the point by putting clap emojis after every one. You'll find out why this is a problem in a minute. This doesn't mean you should avoid posting images. Just use them wisely. Feel clear of putting a lot of words and information on the image and add alt text, as well as put an image description in the content. When the image is also a link, treat it as a link instead of as an image. It's more important for the alt text to describe what the link goes. For instance, many websites have a clickable logo that takes people to the company's homepage. Let's say the logo contains a bear. Company bear logo is not good alt text because clicking it doesn't take you to anything associated with bears. A better alt text is simply the company's name. Animated GIFs are short animated clips that repeat. So everywhere, post, avatar, comment, email, presentation. Though a problem on social media, website, and email. It's cute at first, but it quickly gets annoying. For some folks, it can be downright sickening and dangerous. I've posted my share on Twitter. That's because Twitter has an accessibility setting that allows you to turn off autoplay. If you watch the GIF, select it and it'll play. Select it again and it stops. Facebook works the same way. On LinkedIn, they'll run endlessly until you leave the page or scroll them off the screen. According to Vestibular Disorder Association, 35% of American adults over 40 have some vestibular dysfunction. Flashing, animation, slideshow, and other motion are no joke. They can trigger seizure, migraine, and vertigo for people with vestibular condition. And Dennis pointed out that Slack also has an option to turn off GIF animation. Thank you, Dennis. Aside from that, motion distracts people from the content. The movement constantly screams for attention. Here's an example of how it can be annoying. This image shows my notification on LinkedIn. If I comment on a post with an animated GIF, I'll get notified every time someone likes or comment on that post. So I could be looking at a page full of that have animated GIFs. This one has a laptop with a bagel on it. Firstly, there were only 2, but I have seen a whole page of them, and it can get worse. This image shows companies in their avatar images. One has an animated avatar. Every time they show up, their avatar will be constantly moving. While this is slower, it's so distracting and it gets old fast. You think the simple act of adding content is hard to mess up, that letters and numbers can't be inaccessible. Oh, but they can. Look at the emoji on the right. I can't describe it because it will give things away. In the chat box, let us know what you use it for, what it means to you. Go ahead and type it out. Meanwhile, an emoji can become a problem. Yes, those cute smiling faces that crack us up can be a problem. It's true. Screen readers read emojis out loud. It won't simply say smiling for the left emoji. This is grinning face with smiling eyes. Now check the chat box. Dumbo shared that the hand emoji is a prayer or hopeful emoji. Melissa says it's a high five, but people use it for prayer. Steph says happy and praise or bless. Isaiah for prayer. I always use it for prayer. Hands together. I've used it for prayer and thanks and please. Open mouth. Open mouth. Ashley says open mouth, smiley face with closed eyes. Side view of hands put up together. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, you're not going to believe what the screen reader will say for the hand. And I use it for other things you share. This is folded hand. I'm not joking. Folded hand. I'm putting a URL in the chat box. It is the link where you can see emoji name and what the screen readers say. Many online messages repeat emojis or add a bunch of emojis. I've been guilty of that. Remember, the screen reader speaks the full name of emoji. Imagine the following line. This is how the screen reader reads it. It's party time, party popper, party popper, party popper. And the NVDA reader says it plainly, as you'll find out shortly. Screen reader voices vary. People who use screen reader know when to cut it off at the end, but that's not always possible. Imagine what happens if we do that. Can you guess what the screen reader will say? Pizza, sparkles, Jane, face blowing a kiss, globe showing Europe, Africa. A lot of folks have been adding emoji to the username. Keep it in mind before doing something like this. Here's a real tweet. It looks simple enough, but watch and listen to what happened.
In countries where teachers are paid the most: 1 Luxembourg flag Luxembourg, 2 Germany flag Germany, 3 Netherlands flag Netherlands, 4 Canada flag Canada, 5 United States flag United States, 6 Australia flag Australia, 7 Ireland flag Ireland, 8 Denmark flag Denmark, 9 South Korea flag South Korea, 10 Austria flag Austria, 8 in countries where teachers.
Now that you know how screen readers handle emojis, can you imagine what happens when I do this? It would be bad. Can you guess what the screen reader will say? Thankfully, folding hand, I folding hand, never folding hand. You get the idea. It's hard to focus on what it says with folding hand interrupting every step of the way. Remember that straight image with clapping hands after every word? Now you know why not to do that. It's fine to use emojis. Use them wisely. Hashtags are a wonderful thing. They help people tag and find content, but they can also be embarrassing when they're in all lowercase like this. How do you read that? If you're like Mo, you think Cowboys suck. However, screen readers say all lowercase hashtags as one continuous word. Instead of Cowboys suck, the screen reader says Cowboys uke. Capitalize the first letter of each word, so it's called camel case, and it's more readable. Now this makes sense, and the screen reader will say Cowboys UK. This is the hashtag the team used when it played in the UK. Here's another example. Admit it. It's all too easy to read it the unintended way. Change it to camel case and you get this. Much better. Taking care and using a ton of hashtags that one. The screen reader is going to read them out. Hashtag this, hashtag that, or number this and number that. Screen readers allow you to set your preference for what it says whenever the symbol shows up. Just something to be aware of. Like emojis, hashtags are great. Just be judicious with them and always use camel case. Actually, screen readers do read camel case. Every time something capitalized, it'll read it as a word or a letter, like the UK, it was UK. When you have a bunch of tabs open, how do you know which tab you want to look at? Most likely, you look at the names on the tab. Here are 3 tabs from different pages on the same website. So start with the same thing. Many websites put their company name or important keywords first in the page title, so you don't know which tab is which page. The first thing screen readers will read is the title of the page. This appears in the title tab, as shown in this header. Footnote. Somebody, would you please switch the? Okay, thank you. Footnote the title with the words that describe the page. You can add the company name to the end of it. Remember those outlines you did in school? Headers on web pages work the same way, except they use each one through each text, as that's mentioned in his presentation. Like an essay outline, headers help scanner and screen reader get the lay of the land. A WebAIM screen reader survey asked people who use screen readers how they prefer to find information on a long page. Almost 70% of the respondents prefer headings. One of the most common mistakes is using bold and other styling options to create headers instead of using the header option. When this happens, the screen reader won't be able to navigate the content. Some people use headers for formatting instead of structure. This can confuse the screen reader. Think about it this way. You land on a long article rather than reading word for word. You scan the header. That's what H1 through H6 does the screen reader. Without them, the screen reader reads the entire page. When you work on documents, use the header. This will make them accessible. Another benefit of using headers, they improve SEO. Jennifer shared a resource in the chat box if you want to check it out. I remember a trend when there were no underlines to indicate links. That was a nightmare. You couldn't find the link as you had to depend on color. And the color didn't always stand out from the content. Keep those underlined. Paying attention to color is important, considering 1 in every 12 of the male population has limited color vision, according to the National Institute of Health. Relying on color for links can be a problem for people with dyslexia, processing disorders, and other disabilities. An underlined link is easier to find. Keep linking for URL. The screen reader reads everything. https://www.techasecok.org/whatever/so on and so forth. The next step is to make sure people know which link they want. I bet most of you have noticed multiple links on a page that say read more, click here, or learn more. Here's the problem with them. The image shows the screen reader. The element left on the screen reader displays all the links. Notice they're all duplicate. The screen reader will read them, and the person has no idea which learn more is the right one. It has many duplicate names for links. Where is the first learn more going to take me? The second, what do I want? Links need context. Check the names of the link in your content. Do they make sense? Do they tell you where you'll land if you click? Or you can link the heading instead. We've covered link color. The next thing is not using color to convey information. One of my team relies on a project app. A color-coded different color. This would be a problem for someone with limited color vision. You can work around it by offering a second option. The other challenge with color is contrast. Many websites are guilty of having light background with a shade of gray for the text color. Even dark gray won't work. It's like reading in a phone. Many websites from the early 90s centered everything on the page. Now center alignment isn't cool. It moves the content to the middle of the page instead of starting on the far left or the far right for certain languages like Hebrew. Left aligned text is the easiest to read. The starting place of each line is the same. White space helps readability and scanning. You can achieve this by using short paragraphs with blank lines between them. I love a good bulleted list. The line before the list tells you what it is, and then boom, boom, boom. The bullet gives you the point. And the last bit of advice on creating accessible and readable content is to keep it simple. Write shorter sentences. Trade pretentious $5 words for a 50-cent word. No one will be impressed when someone asks for utilized instead of use. Skip the jargon, cut the cliche, does the fancy one. This image shows justified text. This is where the text on both ends is flush against the margin. The paragraph looks like a perfect rectangle, except to create this effect, the text is stretched out by inserting extra spacing. It creates uneven white spacing. While white space is a good thing, it's not when the text looks patchy. It disrupts the reading experience. In this image, the text is aligned to the left and the long paragraph is broken into two to make it more readable and scannable. Now we're going to talk about video and audio. When it comes to media, the first rule is not to autoplay. It can freak people out and the volume can be too loud. Also, if we're autoplaying slideshows, sliders, and any kind of movement, like animated GIFs, they could be a problem for people sensitive to motion. They also detract from content. Some videos don't have any control. Let the viewer be in control of the video and audio. The more control you give users, the better the experience. If they miss the point, you want them to be able to go back and catch it again. Speaking of a missed point, they could be missing it because of bad quality audio, or they can't catch what the speaker's saying. Caption to the rescue. I can talk about captions for hours, but here's the short version. To caption a video typically requires two files. The video, of course, and the text file with the caption. It has time code that tells the caption when to appear and disappear. You have three options for captioning video. You can do it yourself, use the service, will automatically caption the video, and then edit the caption. Don't let the auto caption go untouched because quality captions matter. A quick note about open and closed caption. Open means the captions are glued on. You can't turn them off and on. Closed gives viewers more control. If you want to dive into caption, go to mirror.net/caption. The next time you publish your caption video online, add #captioned. It helps people find caption video. Dax mentioned in the chat that full justification text is a hard thing for old schoolers to let go of. So I hope this will help you change your habits and start with less justification. A video that contains meaningful visuals will most likely need an audio description. It's sometimes referred to as video description, described video, or AD. It describes the visual element on a video. One way to do that is to use UDescribe. It's a free website and app that provides AD for video. Monica, mirror.net, I will type it. There you go. And finally, provides transcript for videos and podcasts. Some folks like transcript because they can scan the content without playing the entire video or podcast. When doing transcript, white space matters. It's hard to read a big block of text without paragraph breaks. Keep the paragraphs short to improve readability. If you post your caption video on YouTube, it automatically generates a transcript. The best way to learn how screen reader works is to use one. I use NVDA because it has caption, free, and the most popular screen reader. You may have a screen reader function on your phone. Try it out. It's easy to check the contrast of color with free tools like Color Contrast Analyzer. I know Colleen mentioned some tools. All you do is use the eyedropper on the color and you get a pass-fail report card. Like the image show contrast passes all the text except for one. The best way to detect your content is to ask someone who uses screen reader, depends on caption, and so on. When I wrote an article about this topic, someone asked me a screen reader question. I didn't trust my experience because I only use screen readers for testing. So I asked my friend who uses it every day. She gave me a different answer than I would have given. That's why you want to ask the people who rely on the accessibility feature to test your content. Jennifer mentioned that in her presentation yesterday. Content accessibility isn't a project, it's continuous. It takes one mistake to undo the hard work. A website may pass all the accessibility tests today, but anything can happen tomorrow. For example, someone publishes a new blog post with an image without adding alt text. That's why accessibility needs to be baked into the process. The marketing department that's responsible for the blog will have a documented process with an accessibility checklist for alt text, caption, audio description, transcript, and other features. The sales department creates PDF files to send to prospects. The process will include stuff for creating accessible PDF, and that gives you lots of information there. A process for graphic designers will have a step to ensure the image passes the contrast test. Accessibility is everyone's job. Accessibility takes time to learn and bake into your processes. Don't stress over perfection. Focus on progress. Here is my contact information. I will add it into the chat box if anybody wants to copy it. Oh, and my website is mailed on that, obviously. So I'm ready to take a question. If you can type it into the chat box, it'd be great, because I am not getting captioned on my end, and I'm not sure why. Actually, the mail K Evan, that's the Twitter handle, yes. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Doc. And Doc, thank you for educating them on PDF and headers. Oh, by the way, let's say you're using a Word document, rather than making the header yourself by bolding, adding color, or whatever, use the style. You can always change the style to whatever you want. Microsoft Word has header 1, header 2, and so on. When you use those on your header, let's say you copy and paste your article from Word into WordPress, for example, it will transfer the header. So you will have to add the H1, H2 to all the content. It will copy over. But if you do that in Google Docs, it can do it, but it adds other stuff, more noise to the content. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for the kind words. Any questions? You can always ask in Slack. I'm watching the Slack channel as well. Hey, Rob, you want to join us?
Sure thing.
That has a question. Is there a preferred width of text on caption? Absolutely. Size matters, y'all. So you want to target 1 to 2 lines, and each line 32 characters max. There are some text editors that can help you figure out what's 32 characters, but you don't need to count them. hang of it. Once you pay attention to the length, you start to get a feel for it. That it's just a matter of eyeballing it.
Do we have any other questions?
I have to caption back. I guess when you're a presenter, you don't have to caption. But I thought in the past, when I presented, I saw the caption, but not this time. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know that I've checked it while I was presenting. So I wouldn't have anticipated it either way. It looks like there are a couple more questions in the chat.
Let me see, there's a couple more questions. Could you speak to the use of all caps and captions from Catherine? Generally, we prefer mixed case, but in live events, live video, it can be okay to use all captions. We want it to be more accurate because we know live captions with the speed and the delay, we want minimal delay, otherwise it makes it hard to keep up. But don't use uppercase and recorded video. And Anna asked, in regard to the length of caption, if there is more than 32 characters, should you edit to cut words that are not essential? No. If it's said, if it's heard, it needs to be captioned. And line breaks, where you break up the line and the caption do matter. It's a tricky one because there's no captioning key. I'm tapping it in, make sure y'all heard me. Captioning key is an excellent, it's the best, my favorite captioning guide from DCMP. And they have a really nice guide on line breaking points. And let's see. Oh wow, Holly has a great question. If you could just one place to begin for someone new to accessibility, what would that be? That I would. W3C has an intro to accessibility course. I don't know if it's free anymore, but I know that Microsoft has one. They're free, and I know that if your library has lynda.com training, they have a accessibility class as well. And then Yolani, I hope I pronounced that right. Can we add alt text to LinkedIn posts? Yes, you can. I know you can in the feature. Now, I can't remember if you can do it in the body of the post. Most of the time, people don't put images there. I don't think you can. So it's important to put it in the image description in the content. Like the next image tells you blah, blah, blah. And was that you, Rob? The 1.5 second time limit? Was that your? Okay. Well, somebody put the 1.5 second time limit for captions makes it hard. When you keep, that's why length is so helpful. You don't have to pay attention to timing so much. You just follow the person speaking and keep the length short. And if the person stops speaking, you don't have any captions there. So I never pay attention to timing, and yet it always works out. And Catherine wants to know the difference in transcript and caption. Okay, I've had a similar question before. If you can provide transcript instead of caption, and that is absolutely not. And I say that because I cannot read a transcript. It's information overload. It is so much easier to follow a video with the captions up beneath the speaker up at the bottom, because if following the conversation transcript, it's just like you're being showered with so much information, you don't know where to begin. But you want to have both because, for example, it's very hard to skim podcasts and videos. You can't. You're trying to fast forward, but it's really hard. TwinQuip help you in those searchable. Oh, let's see, equalentry.com. One of my clients, equalentry.com, has a great example of how to post videos on a website with captions in TwinQuip. It's my favorite thing.
Okay, excellent timing. We are at the end of the session time. Meryl, thank you so much. Really, really great stuff. We've had we had several comments in the chat about how great this was. Comment over in Slack as well. So we're thrilled that you could join us from Plano. Thrilled that you could be part of the program this year. It was great.